right, with it being right at 7 o'clock, Mark, can you do roll call?
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Erickson.
Here.
Mayor Roberts.
Here?
Councilmember Valento.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here. All right, if you're able, please stand for the pledge. Okay, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, if you want to just make sure there's no other additions or subtractions.
Any additions or subtractions before we make a motion to approve the agenda?
No. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. The number 5, awards and presentations section of our agenda. We're having Paul Peterson from Lakes Area TV give us an overview of cable overview and council chambers update.
Hello, Mayor, Council. I have to admit, my heart skipped a beat. I've never been that high on the agenda before, so I thought somebody was going to push me down there. So I am just here, 2 different reasons. I was mainly coming here because you guys want some upgrades in your room, and then Jolene suggested, since I've kind of met Mark, I've never met Kevin, that I just kind of introduce myself and what we do. So I will kind of go fast as I can, and then after we'll kind of talk about your chambers. So I am Paul from Lakes Area TV, and what I do, I'm the access coordinator. I also create films. I look for stories to tell around town. My training is 3D animation. I've been a graphic designer for many, many years. I've probably made 1,000 TV commercials for Comcast and Charter and things like that. And I just ended up in Forest Lake and got a call from the then mayor and said, come run my TV station. So that's what I do. So, and I love that. I love working here. I love the people I meet here. I love working with Columbus as well. I also manage the equipment, so I kind of research all the equipment that we buy, what's outdated, what isn't. I make sure that the system in here is running. You guys might not think I'm doing very good, but I spend a lot of time here making sure it works. So it's just, when you hit go, 1,000 things happen. So it's easy for things to break. And I put in a new system in Columbus. I put in a new one in Scandia. They just have different problems. There's just a lot going on. So we can talk about that going on. I also put together our annual budget, which is kind of tough. We are in the red. We will always be in the red. We are paid by cable subscribers, which are going down because of Netflix, Amazon, all these things. And our salary, insurance, and building rental are our main 3 things, and those are always going to go up every year. So every year I have to go find some production work to make up for that, to get us out of the red. And so far we're fine. This year I needed to make up 9,000. I'm already at about 5. So we'll hit that this year as well. And I'm just a liaison. So I love meeting people in the community. It's what I do. I'm a pretty severe introvert, so I wouldn't have thought I'd have liked that so much, but I really do enjoy just getting to meet people. Kind of talked about that just with the budget, and there's a million stories I'd love to go tell. I have to be pretty selective. When I first got here, I agreed to everything, and a lot of things didn't get done. So I'm getting better at saying no. Got yelled at by my cable commission quite a few times for that. So I just have to kind of pick and choose which ones we do and how we do them. Fastest way to do them. So I gave a presentation last year before you guys were here just on cable access in general. In case you're not familiar with it, I'll go through. This is just part of it. We'll go through it quick. It was initially put together in the 80s for government meetings. Cable TV was the only way for people to see government meetings. Since then, YouTube, cell phones, everything, that business model is pretty much gone. We actually, with Hannah, she's on our cable commission, we looked at the operating procedures and they're 100% obsolete. Nothing that was written in there pertains to what we do today. So we're rewriting all those. And so now it's more of a streaming everything. We have 4 different live stream events, and I just make a lot of things in the community and film a lot of things so people can see them. Like we live stream sports for the school and stuff, like our football game last year, home opener, we had 9,000 people watch it live. And so I get comments from all over the country, grandparents, friends, thanking us that they get to watch these things that we do. We're on multiple platinums, so we live stream on our website. We also take pretty much every video I make, plus your council meetings, put them on YouTube. We also have a Roku app, an Apple TV app, and a Amazon Fire app. So if you have any of those smart TVs, you can watch us multiple ways, whatever's easiest, any phone, any device, anything. I never want somebody to look at something I make and say, that looks like cable access. I hate that. That was a stigmatism that came back way back when. I strive very hard to make my productions look super high-end. I actually got nominated for an Emmy last year. And I'm using they're called Netflix certified cameras. I'm using the same cameras that Hollywood uses, and they are spectacular. So, and I mean, with my commercials, I used to make 3D animation. That's what I did for all these TV stations is with doing my animation and my filmmaking, I can make pretty much anything somebody wants, depends on if I have enough time to make it. When I first got here, I came to city council, asked what they wanted me to do. There was no relationship with the schools at that time, so they said, go create a partnership with the high school. I went and introduced myself to Caldwell. He gave me a tour of the school. I said, let me build a studio here. He told me I was crazy. 2 months later, called me back and said, were you serious? Took about a year. I built a super cool studio in the high school. I work with students, I work with teachers. We create a lot of stuff there. It's pretty neat. Inside that studio, I built a podcast studio. And so students do sometimes they create homework assignments as podcasts. We do career launch podcasts where Mike and Molly come in and talk about the cool things that they're doing as teachers. I had students do one on video gaming. Anybody can do anything. I met with Mark when I first got here, and he said his last city turned all their city council meetings into podcasts. So I'm working on that. I'm trying to create a streamline so I can turn it over to my assistant once I figure out the easiest way for her to just take them. Once we put graphics in your meetings, we also upload them to our podcast channel, which is Lakes Area TV. It's on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Pandora. Anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us. So your meetings very shortly will also be podcasts, unless you guys don't want that. And so I also take your meetings on my channel or on my website. You guys link to it, Columbus links to it. I try to make it so you can find any part of any meeting within a minute, either with our website or with YouTube. So if you go there, you can click on the meeting, the agenda pops up on one side, chapter markers pop up on the right, you click anywhere and it jumps right to that part of the meeting. Also, you go to our YouTube channel on the top, your agenda's at the top, all the chapter markers are in the description. So either way, you can find whatever you want in any meeting super fast. That took a little bit of work. We're also kind of a digital archive. I like to go film fun stories and tell what's going on in town, and I kind of consider us, that's the archive we're building. We've got thousands of videos between our channel and our social media and our YouTube, so I just like filming all these things. I get a lot of requests, do you have this graduation from 15 years ago? And we usually have them somewhere. So, and then I just like meeting people in the community. That goes back to, that was weird for me, but I enjoy that quite a bit. So, and that's it. I'm open to, anybody ever wants me to film something, just call me, email me. I am open to any ideas. I'm smart enough to know I'm never the smartest one in the room. So I will take on, I love to learn stuff. I love to learn new stuff. Being in commercials, every client would ask me to do something. I'd always say, oh, my favorite thing to do. I've been doing that forever. No clue how to do it. Go figure out how to do it. And that's what I want. So you guys have an idea? I'd love to work on it with you. So that's me. That's Lakes Area TV. Any questions with that?
No, but I think a commercial for the possible ATV, UTV ordinance would come in handy on the website.
That wouldn't be a bad idea, do a video on that.
A what?
Well, on the agenda tonight is possibly passing an ordinance authorizing ATVs, UTVs, and golf carts on city streets.
Sure.
I think it'd be really cool to have an educational commercial about that, should it pass, and what people need to do to make that happen.
It would be super fun to film something like that too.
Right.
So I got a lot of GoPros and drones. We could snap them on people and get cool angles and stuff.
There are speed limits.
Yes.
Great.
So that would be cool. Yeah, and perfect. That's a perfect example. Reach out, I'll come meet with you and we'll figure out, the message you want to get across, who your audience is, and we'll figure out the best way to tell that story for you. So I love that. Perfect. So then part 2 is you guys want some bigger TVs here. And so I think Mark was going to hand out, if you guys have that in your hands, I got an estimate from Bloom, who installed this system. They used to be called Tyranny. And we have a service contract with them. When stuff breaks, they come and fix it as part of the contract. So I had them come in for a proposal, and it was to move these TVs about close to 10 feet forward, maybe 8 feet forward, put them on, away from the wall so we could tip them towards the audience. And I think the difference was they're like 85-inch TVs, and if we went to a 90-inch, it jumped $5,000 a piece or something. It was kind of ridiculous, and that's why the size of the TV is picked there. As a little backstory for this, so when the building was first built, the system that was put in this room was just over $90,000. All the TVs, all the computers, all the everything, the system that we run in there. And then it was decided, and this happened before I got here, that Lakes Area TV would buy back the gear that was required for our broadcasts. So basically everything in that room is mine, and then these monitors, these TVs are the city's. And I think we ended up taking 3 years, and we paid the city $65,000 for our part of it. So that's where these come in. I don't know if these fall under your responsibility or mine, because it's not really part of my broadcast, but I'm open to whatever, so. And that was before I got here. I got here and I started making the first payment, so.
So anything additional than not just the TVs? Was there anything with
It was just-
sound, audio?
Nope. I don't think there was anything in that. We're looking at a whole new system in the entire room, and that I'm waiting a couple of years, and every time a tech comes out here, I talk to them about it. I'm waiting for a little more automation. So I work with all of the cable access stations in the state, and I go tour. Some of them are spectacular, and I just toured Roseville, and they just put in an almost fully automated system, but it's not quite there yet, to where if somebody can't show up, they can fire it up from somebody's house, control the cameras and everything, but it's a little clunky. And the way cameras are tracking with voice activation, this system should almost be able to run itself, kind of like the OWL cameras. You start talking, that camera cuts to you, and we're a couple of years away from that technology being to that point and being at a nice price point. So that's kind of why I'm holding off on that just a tiny bit. I would hate to put in $70,000 system and then 2 years go, oh, I wish we'd have done that. So right now, I think your system's running pretty good. I know it seems like things break now and then, but I do come in within a day and I schedule a tech as soon as we can, and we come in here and make sure it goes back. We had some kind of dirty power issue about 6 months ago. That's the best way they can describe it, and it blew up many things in this room. And it took months to kind of fix all that. We sent our main, basically, brain in there that makes everything talk to itself in and got it completely rebuilt. And that did quite a bit for it. So it was just, and they said, there was like 10 things that went wrong in here, and they said the only way that many things could break is if you sent inconsistent power to everything. We think that was maybe the lightning storm, because we just had techs. I spent the day with them upstairs a few weeks ago, and half those systems are just melted. And nobody had looked at them, and they said that's probably from a power surge of some sort. So, and I know the city had a lightning storm and lost power for a short period of time. That should not happen. A generator should kick in within a second, but I mean, they literally opened up boxes and things were clicking and humming, and they should be silent. And they're like, none of this is working, so.
So would that account for some of the challenges over the last year or so where staff is trying to do a presentation and there's just that audio, just not connecting correctly?
One issue we're having in here is as computers become more and more modern, there's anti-piracy protection installed that isn't in this system because it's old enough. So a Mac will almost never run on all your screens because it detects you're shooting it somewhere unsafe and they'll turn on for 1 second and shut them down. That's why we have these weird little analog plugs that switch it from a digital to an analog signal. Still can't fool a Mac, but it'll fool most PCs. So yeah, there's weird little issues, and that's about a $10,000 splitter that you can go in there. Because we have the copyright protection shut off in the tower, Macs still don't recognize it. But there is a splitter built underneath there, and I don't know if it's in the desk or in the floor, and so we would have to rewire all these monitors. Because when you plug it in, 3 of them stay on, that one stays on, and I think those 2 stay on, and all the rest of them go off after 1 second. It's bizarre. So, yes, could be the challenges. And it's 10 years old, we're updating software. That's where we're at. And so we are putting away $10,000 a year out of our budget for that upgrade when it eventually happens. So the money is there when we go do it. You know, depending on how big a system you want to put in, I may need to borrow some again and pay it back over years, depending on what we go with, but.
So that's interesting. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense that we're using cable franchise fees to pay for technology in this building.
It is actually quite common. So there's a pretty broad range of things you can use that money for. So if people don't understand it, there's a fee on your cable bill that if you have subscription cable, and that can only be used for certain functions, and I won't try to list those, but many cities do, utilize that for their in-council chambers systems. And generally, one of the reasons to do that is because that money can only be used for certain things. Some of it is set aside for capital expenses as opposed to operating expenses. At least some finance directors will tell you that, some will hedge their bets a little bit.
That line is getting fuzzier as the year, because every cable station is experiencing what we're experiencing, so those funds are starting to commingle a little bit. They aren't with us, but for most people, we still have them completely separate in our budget, but.
And I think
there are the
for
peg
now,
fees.
it's wise if we can do that, if we still have those needs, to keep those separate. I will say too, the entire world of cable, local access cable is being turned on its head by this whole shift from broadcast cable to streaming, and the legislature is looking at those issues, and I think at some point it's gonna come to a head, and someone's gonna have to make a hard decision to say, okay, streaming services, we're now gonna be putting this charge on you, or something. Something has to be figured out. It's just not equitable anymore. I mean, Paul and people like him are really suffering, having to try to have a declining income and an increasing expense line, like most of us.
And it's kind of a loophole that Charter, Comcast, Midco have found. So it was written that they are supposed to share a percentage for cable access TV. Well, now it's internet, and they're like, well, it's not specifically written that way. And even though that is how basically all of our content is viewed, is through the internet. I have smart TV or whatever, I have internet cable at home. So I don't even have the cable anymore, and they're putting up wireless towers. They don't advertise cable TV anymore. So Midco is actively trying to get rid of us because they don't want to give us a percentage of their money. There's fairly big lawyers, because St. Paul and Minneapolis have really big cable stations. They are multi-million dollar operations. So there's legislation at the state capitol. I think we just got thrown out of it this year again. Last year we were trying to get into an omnibus bill, and at the last minute it got thrown out. It is literally a party line vote, and we don't go through. And so they're trying to figure out ways to get just a percentage of internet dollars. This year they put forth one based on your population. They would give you this much money, and it was nowhere near enough to cover how low our funds are, but it was kind of a Band-Aid to a point. Because last year they left it, the lawyers for cable left it far too open, so the cable stations came in and just basically screamed the sky is falling, and the meetings are hilarious to watch. They're like, if you pass this, no one will be able to afford internet, will be the end of everything. And so so there's people fighting for it. Whether it's going to eventually pass, I don't really know. It doesn't look good. So that's where my productions come in, and we used to not, I can't compete with a local production company. That's kind of the rules the Cable Commission came up with, is if somebody else wants the job and they give a better bid, they get it 100%. I don't want to take away work from a local production company of some sort, but they allow me to go bid these, and I bid them at a quarter of what anybody would charge to go do them, so.
What do we do with this proposal? We bring this back to a future conversation?
It'll come back on the next agenda as a consent agenda item if everyone's kind of.
That was just to kind of introduce you to what it is, yeah. And so, yeah, we looked at it, and it's a rewiring. I think the way that it's worded is it expects the city to move the wires to there, and then the installer guys would come and actually install the TVs.
That'll all be part of a staff report. We'll make sure the details are there for you next time around, as long as everyone's kind of comfortable with the idea of spending roughly 10 grand on getting bigger TVs and moving them forward and making it just a little bit better for the audience.
And I explained to the installer that in a couple of years, we want to upgrade everything probably, so make sure we're putting in something that goes with whatever new we put in, so.
You know, being in those seats there and trying to follow a meeting with the current monitors is a challenge at times, so.
Columbus and Scandia have gigantic TVs on stands they wheel out, but they don't look spectacular wheeling them out, so we're trying to come up with something that looks a little better. There wasn't really a way to make that one bigger. We'd have to start cutting away the ceiling and doing weird stuff. The guy walked in and said, no, you're not touching that one, so.
Well, Paul, just appreciate your time and everything you do for the community. I would attest on the quality. Ann Margaret was in town for the Vietnam Veterans Day, and the video, the introduction video that came out, I thought was a national type video, and here was local, until I saw local veterans on there, didn't even realize it. So everything you do is top notch, and we thank you for all your hard work.
It's very fun. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Next agenda item is open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to come up and speak to any issue with the city, question or concerns. We try to limit to 3 minutes. When you come up, just please give your name and address.
I did have a sign-up sheet back there, I don't know.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, Becky Jacobson.
Thanks for inviting us up, Mayor Roberts and council. We live at 21176 Everton Avenue North.
Yeah, and so it's right next to the hazardous building on 21164. So we've been fortunate enough to be neighbors to that property for the last 5 years. And you know, since we've been there, there's never been anyone there. Everything's overgrown. When we moved into the place, my focus was on the lake. I never really looked at that side. Then the fall came, all the leaves left, and I started looking at the bathtub in the backyard and the toilet in the backyard and the open part of the building.
There's no
on the
wall
back.
structure on the back.
So the doors swinging open all the time. And it's just, you've contacted people about it.
A few times. And I got a little bit more concerned once I saw kids started going in there to see what's in there. So, because it's obviously a little bit dangerous. And I'm not really sure what's in there other than they reported there were some animals and other things in there.
And there are a few little outbuildings too that I have no idea. I'm not going in there, so I don't know what's in there. And we're just kind of hoping for the city council to approve the removal of that structure.
Great. Thanks for coming tonight. Next, Don and Cindy Finch.
We were just here on their behalf.
Okay.
For the same reason.
Okay.
We live at 21183 Everton, right across the street from them and right across the street from that house. And yes, there's a big wasp nest there and everything else now. It's quite an eyesore. And we're new to the area, so we were kind of wondering what was happening with that property, and they informed us, and they go, oh, wow. So we would like to see something done to it, just to get rid of that building or whatever needs to be done.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Great. Next item, consent agenda. Can we get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda passes. All right, we're back to our regular agenda. 8A, purchase of sculptures for the Veterans Memorial, and Dave's going to start, I believe.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I put together a brief update in that staff memo. I'm sure you read it. There's a lot of words in there, but what you can get from it is the estimate that came in February has risen up to $815,000, but the exact approved project that you guys approved to go forward with actually decreased in price. So good news that we've with Bolton and Mink, finding some duplicity and some shared costs that we were able to bring some of the project down, but the main raise was the monument. That'll be a discussion for a different day when funds are raised to be able to get that purchased, but mostly the update was that what was approved for plans and specs in February came in lower than what was originally estimated back in October. With that, the plan still is fall construction on these, on that monument, and we're kind of made aware that these medallions and the sentries take 3 to 4 months to get built. We have to order the medallions, they get shipped here, they bring to another contractor who then installs them into the sentries, and then they're ready for install. So the hope would be that we could order them now, get the medallions in, get the sentries built, delivered to most likely Public Works, and then be there ready for when construction starts this fall. It's a tight timeline to try to get this done in the fall and probably ready by the spring for Memorial Day for it to be ready. So it's one of those things that if we're within budget and we're on our timeline, it would kind of be the smartest thing to just get these ordered and get them here. So when construction does happen this fall, they're ready to go and we're not waiting for them. So I attached the quotes, one from Woodland Manufacturing and the other one from Play Creations. These are the quotes that we're getting originally from the Veterans Memorial Group. Kyle is kind of taking over ordering them and taking these quotes, and we're kind of trying to not have so many hands in the cookie jar. It's just Bolton Mink running it, and we're ordering these pieces, and after that, Bolton Mink is probably going to just run that project and just, so we have one company doing this. It's just streamlining this a little bit better. So our portion right now will just be buying these with city funds instead of being Bolton Mink to buy them and then to get them back. So it's one of those, we'll just purchase them outside of the contract. You'll see them on the estimate lines, like I think it's 43 and 45. They'll just get crossed off of that engineer's estimate when they put it out for bid, as they'll just be purchased. The structure will do the same thing once the Veterans Memorial Crew comes up with that money. So really what I'm looking for tonight is approval to purchase the sentries from Play Creation for $64,238 and the medallions from Woodland Manufacturing for $6,788.15.
I see a couple of members from the Memorial Committee. Would any like to add to that at all? Okay, all right, great. So is there a motion?
Well, I got a quick question. Where will we store these once they're fully done and received until the fall?
We'll store them either at Public Works or at the cell shop somewhere. They're built to be outside, so whether it's in our yard at the shop or some side, we'll keep them secure, or maybe even the e-hanger, just somewhere. I'm not anticipating a very long storage. If it's 3 to 4 months, they'll probably come close to September when construction starts, so it's probably 4 to 6 weeks that we have to hold on to them.
Perfect. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the service medallions from Woodland Manufacturing for $6,788.15 and Century Sculptures from Play Creations for $64,238.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Hannah. Any discussion? Any additional discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. 8B, Resolution Forest Lake Preserve Estates 3rd Edition. Abby.
Sorry about that. Get myself ready here. I'll get in so that. Thank you, Mayor Roberts. What?
So we should have Paul here.
Right. That's what we'll do. Next time Jolene's unavailable, we'll call Paul and see if he can help us with this. Thank you. Dan Emery has applied for kind of a unique application. It's really, in essence, a lot line adjustment between two parcels of property in the city of Forest Lake. One of them, a 5-acre parcel owned by by Bowser. Forgive me, I forgot the owner's first name. Thank you, Justin Bowser, at 18323 Forest Boulevard North. He's looking to sell the property, but expand the property to 10 acres. The second property that's a part of this request today is a large outlot that was platted as part of Forest Lake Preserve Estates. So this would be the Forest Lake Preserves Estates 3rd edition. And essentially what they're gonna do is combine the little box that you see on there, a portion of the big box to make 10 acres into a single parcel. It's interesting that this would be could be administratively approved per our zoning code, but the challenge is one of the parcels has been platted, that big parcel, and the little one is a meets and bounds. It's got kind of the old north by northwest kind of legal description, and the county doesn't allow us to change legal descriptions when there's a meets and bounds. We have to plat to be able to make that combination request. So this has gone to the Planning Commission both in January and in April, and they're in favor of this and recommend approval. It does conform to city codes and does not, it's in line with what we would allow for a standard request of this nature. So included tonight for your consideration is a resolution that would conditionally approve. Staff does recommend you move to approve Resolution 04282504 included in your packet, which would conditionally approve Forest Lake Preserve Estates 3rd edition. Mel Emery, representing the applicant, is here if you have any questions for her. Do you have any questions for me? Great, thank you.
Great. Any questions for the applicant or the?
Just one quick thing I just noticed. Abby, the recommendation there's 2 conditions on there that include in that.
Yes, those conditions are included in the resolution.
Any other questions, either Abby or the applicant or the representative for the applicant? Want to make a motion?
No, she covered all the bases. Thank you.
I make a motion to accept the resolution 0428-25-04 with the 2 conditions listed on the.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 8C, next item, conditional use permit application, AT&T Cooling Camp Park. And Abby.
Thank you. I just want to clarify for the record, it is not actually the consideration of a conditional use permit, but the authorization of a permit submittal. So the city has been approached by AT&T, their interest in putting a new 100-foot monopole style antenna with a corresponding service area, gated service area for it in Cooling Camp Park, owned by the city. This type of land use action would require a conditional use permit, but because we are the owner, they cannot move forward without the council authorizing the submission of an application. Just to give you a little bit of background, they have provided some cellular coverage maps for reference. Everything that's blue shown on the map on the screen is low to no coverage. You can get good coverage outdoors, but indoor use starts to decline pretty dramatically. The yellow star is where Cooling Camp Park is, so you can see that much of that northeast corner of Forest Lake is a low service area for cellular services. With this new antenna pole, it would increase the services dramatically for both in-building and in-vehicle use based on what their early analysis is. So just giving you a little bit of a before and after, and I can zoom in a little bit on these. They were included in your packet. Currently, view of Cooling Camp Park without the facility, but then this is what they would be proposing. Additionally, from the east, the ball fields, and they would propose it kind of tucked back in that far northwest corner. This did go before the Park and Recreation Commission earlier this month, just for their early input. The Park and Recreation Commission was not opposed to the potential installation in Cooling Camp Park. I think that they look at this as a potential opportunity to maybe help with some revenue for improvements into the parkland system. But also, we've talked internally as staff that a lot of times you can design park-related features into these monopole structures, including things like ball field lighting. Those are things that AT&T has indicated that they'd be willing to talk about with us. So tonight for your consideration is whether or not the council would like to authorize AT&T to move forward with a conditional use permit request. If that is the case, they would then prepare their materials to go through the public entitlement process with the Planning Commission. We'd also work out a lease that would come back before the council. So you'd see this again. But tonight for your consideration is whether or not you would like to authorize them submitting the application. Staff does recommend you discuss this. From a staff standpoint, from a community and kind of economic development standpoint, there are some definitely benefits, not just lease revenue, but to the residents and homeowners in those areas. This could dramatically help improve their communication services, wireless services in that northeast corner of the city.
Questions or thoughts?
Is there any chance of them putting up a pole that's a little less pole looking like?
I definitely think that we can talk with them about a mask design. I will let you know the most common is, you might know, is you can make them look like trees, but then you just sit with 100-foot fake tree. And I've worked in a community that has had one of these, and you know, from a distance, it's there. Sometimes those monopoles actually kind of can just, you know, wash out in the sky a little bit from the singles design versus all the accoutrements that kind of can get added to those monopoles to make it look like a tree. But yes, I think we can talk with them if that's the direction the city would like to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I want a 100-foot palm tree there, but it's really going to stand out. But obviously, there's a significant economic development or service feature, but it will definitely be noticeable.
You're not getting charged for that siren removal to that?
No, they do propose moving the siren. We haven't determined whether or not we would want that moved. It would allow for us to get rid of one wooden pole in the area. But those are the conversations that we would have with them about the other public benefits that we might be able to achieve through the installation of this private facility.
So by approving this tonight, this is just really the start, and there's the whole process of the neighborhood being, you know,
Yep.
notified and feedback from them, and we're not tied to anything by just approving.
We are not. The challenge is towers are allowed by conditional use permit in the district. Conditional use permits it's essentially a permitted use that we can place conditions on. And they are a little bit harder when you can't necessarily say that there isn't necessarily a public risk. It just kind of can make it a little bit tricky if we started this process and then decided that there was some sort of maybe a health, safety, welfare reason we didn't want to see this, other than maybe the neighborhood just not liking it. We did kind of talk about the different processes going forward in terms of having them go through the process and having it conditional upon the council's approval later. But even for them to just consider submitting that application, it's really based on this body's desire.
Yeah, I think that's an important question you've asked, Blake, and Abby's done a nice job of explaining it. And I think, I don't know if Amanda, you have any comments, but as Abby mentioned, it's an allowed use, right? So if a private property owner came forward and wanted to do this, it's a permitted use. Remember, a conditional use permit isn't the city gets a choice, it's the city can apply reasonable conditions. So it's not something you get to decide, I think we like this or I think we don't. It's, you could say, well, to Leif's point, could we make it a little bit different design, or could we put it in a little bit different location, or are there things we could do to make the project a bit more amenable, but to just outright deny it would be difficult. And so here, because we're the property owner, the first step we're taking here is to say whether or not we even want to propose this in the first place, because once we sort of do, it might be a bit more problematic to just outright deny. Is that fair? And Abby, I'm sorry, did you kind of say that they would rather not go through that investment of designing this whole thing if they don't know for sure?
I mean, I think AT&T is hesitant to do the engineering and design for something that they don't necessarily have maybe some assurances. One thing that if this council is hesitant, you could ask the landowner to hold a public meeting in advance of the application submission to gain some of that public feedback, to see if there is, an overwhelming amount of support or opposition. We certainly can provide them with the notification boundary area of those that would be noticed through the application and review process. It's a little uncustomary, and it would take some staff time, and without necessarily an application submittal, this would kind of be staff, it'd take some staff resources, but that I think is something that the council could direct staff to work with them on if you want so desired.
So when you say the property owners, meaning
I mean,
the city?
Yeah,
right?
either the property owner or the applicant. I would say that it would be, the applicant driven. We could host it here. It's almost like kind of going through that public notification process in advance of an application submission. It would be very uncustomary, but I think I can sense that the council would like to gain some neighborhood feedback before you made the decision to allow the submission of an application.
Yeah, if we can't go back on this without the public knowing about it, I'd rather see that. I mean, we've had situations where we dug holes in right-of-ways and guess, it came to that. And so, not to have to put another step to it, but I'd feel more comfortable with it if at least the neighborhood knew about it. Because right now, unless they read today's packet, they have no idea about it, I would guess.
Yeah.
But that's just my.
So what I'm hearing from the council is at least the direction to staff is, first off, that no, you don't want this submission, the application, prior to doing some public outreach by the applicant with assistance from staff.
Well, I guess I'm probably the only one that actually said that. I don't know what the rest of it. I think that we were gonna
Thanks
make
for
a com-
clarifying. I heard it. I'm trying
You're gonna make a
to.
comment?
Abby, I was just gonna ask, if at Kuhlenkamp Park, if we were to add lights, let's say the city decided to turn that into a lighted field, what process would we go through? And do we have to notify the local residents if we're gonna do that?
I don't believe that there would have been anything in any of our codes anywhere that the installation of lights on a ball field would have required it. Now, whether or not this body or the Parks Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission would have wanted to do it, that's.
So even though it
Hotel.
would be a benefit to certain people that use that park if for certain sports and in certain evenings, there's gonna be residents that most likely aren't gonna be happy with a bunch of lights in their backyard now.
They may not be, yep.
Okay, all right, just checking.
I will also just note for the record that the applicant is not proposing lighting. I am just saying
Understand.
that some communities have allowed this when there are benefits to the facility itself. One of the ways is lighting.
There, I don't know if anyone knows this off the top of their head, but just from what we've received on current leases, what kind of dollars are we talking about annually?
Yeah, so, Your Honor, Counsel, these can be fairly lucrative for the city. So you could be looking at somewhere between $40,000 to $80,000 a year in lease revenue, depending on how the lease negotiation goes. I've done a few of these in some other cities, so I know exactly what the market needs to look like, which is a benefit for the city. And to echo what Abby said, a lot of cities do these in their parks because they do kind of disappear a little bit. And it is a significant, over the course of time, a significant revenue generator for the city. Because what you do is you set up the lease. I'm not giving any secrets away. This is very much what all savvy cities do, where not only do they have to pay you rent, but for anybody else that they would co-locate on the tower. So when they bring in, there's the big players, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, I'm sure I'm forgetting some, T-Mobile. But then there are smaller entities that are kind of like your secondary market. Boost Mobile, I think, is one, and I know of a few others that are like kind of the the monthly non-subscription kind. And so they will bring them in as a subtenant. And so the leases are written that any subtenants, we would be getting a portion of that rent as well. So these can be incredibly lucrative for a city.
Just to follow up, they are proposing a 30-year lease. So if you're thinking about that $40,000 to $80,000, there is a pretty committed timeline in which they would be seeking.
I would also say that those dollars don't have to go to parks, or it doesn't have to go to that park, but that might be some of the public input we want to solicit too, is do the neighbors feel like, well, maybe there should be some of that revenue set aside for improvements to that park, right? That might be kind of a mitigating way to say thank you to the neighbors for allowing this thing to be there. Again, probably don't want to commit the whole pot of that revenue, but maybe commit to something, not maybe a portion of that revenue every year, but maybe just some improvements to that park would be something that could be traded there. But I think, you know, when I first looked at this too, I thought, oh gosh, people are gonna not like a cell tower in their park. But, you know, in talking with some people on the northeast side there, no, we'll take it because we want the coverage, you know. And I forget how important cell coverage is when in a place where you get cell coverage and then you go to somebody's house and they don't have it. It's world, cell coverage is important and it trumps a lot of things, so.
And I was the only one that suggests that, but I don't know if the rest of the council would want to do that or just move forward.
I just, personally, I'd rather move forward. I mean, I think that the benefits outweigh, I mean, we've got cell towers all over, and you see them when they're initially built, but then they just kind of fade into the background, like Abby alluded to, unless you put up a 100-foot palm tree, which are very noticeable, but kind of fun for kids to spot. But I think the economic benefit could be significant, and knowing some of the discussions that we've had around budget and specifically funding for parks or other things that we need to do, it's gonna be a great opportunity that we've been kind of hoping for.
I'd have to agree with Councilmember Erickson. Once it's up and it's been there a little while, I think it'll just kind of blend in with the general.
Yep, I agree. Motion on this, correct?
Yeah, then I think it would be a motion to authorize AT&T to submit a conditional use permit for a new wireless tower facility in Cooling Camp Park. Just say so it's moved.
How's that?
What she said.
All right.
Did you find it there?
Yep.
Okay.
I move to authorize AT&T to submit a conditional use permit request for the telecommunications facility in Colicamp Park.
I'll second.
Is
Any
that acceptable?
Yeah, any further discussion? I would add just a little bit. I mean, the only other hesitancy for me on this would be to Mark's point about getting more feedback from neighborhood about where the funds should go and that. I mean, but maybe that still can happen at the same time.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're looking for input. I know there's a motion out there, but it will add that as part of our conditional use permit processes, they do have to hold not only a public hearing, but I think, if I remember right, a public meeting in advance of the hearing, so usually a week or 10 days before. I can also advise AT&T that it's in their best interest to hold a neighborhood meeting in advance of their application submittal. Certainly, if we hear from the neighborhood, I think that that's when we can certainly start to kind of vet out if there's improvements that they'd like to see, that we're kind of working through maybe how we can help soften the improvement, enhance, entice the neighborhood if possible. I don't know if that's maybe not the best way to phrase it, but.
Want me to add a caveat to that motion then? For a meeting, possibly a public meeting?
I certainly know that we'll have them through the application submittal. It's whether or not this council wants to require them to host one before their application submittal. I don't think that that's a bad idea, given the fact that we are the landowner and there's a little bit of questionable concern of how well it'll be received by the neighborhood.
I would like to add that extra item then, pending a public meeting. Reference that.
Pending an applicant held public meeting in advance of application submission?
Correct, thank you kindly.
I mean, we're kind of back to where not really doing this until we have that meeting, correct then?
That would just require them to have some public outreach beforehand, but it still authorizes them to submit.
All right, so any other further discussion?
You can just make sure we'll have the revised motion approved by the person who made the second.
I'll second.
Or further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Maybe, but no.
Just for the record, Mr. Mayor, were you and I as well, or was
Yes,
it sort of
yes,
5-0?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, 8D, a resolution order to correct or remove hazardous building at
I got it
21164
right here.
Everton Avenue.
If you just want to tell me when to advance the slide, does that work for you? No? Why don't you try plugging in?
That assumes that I know what slide's coming up next.
That's just fine. But
Is this, everybody see it good? Okay. Thank you, Your Honor Counsel. So we will be talking about two different 463 actions, one for 820 17th Street and one for 21164 Everton Avenue. I'll do kind of a summary presentation on the front end. We'll talk about 17th Street. I'll look for some motions, and then we'll move into 21164, and then I will look for the motions for the second one. So just a reminder, a 463 action, as we call it, is a civil action related to a hazardous building. So we have authority under Minnesota law to demand that hazardous buildings either be repaired or removed within the city. Just a quick reminder on how this process works. So the council receives an official report. This evening, this is that official report. The documents in your packet and my presentation tonight consist of the official report. The report includes what specifically an inspection from the building official, where based on his inspection, he determined that the building was a hazardous building under the definition provided in the statute. There's a statute that describes how you become a hazardous building, and the building official conducts an inspection to determine that. So tonight, after we walk through these buildings individually, I'm looking for you to approve this resolution and order. And basically what that is it recognizes the designation of hazardous building by the building official, and it tells the property owner, you have X amount of time to either fix the hazards or demolish the building. And then you give them the time to complete that work. In both cases, we are suggesting that you give the property owners until July 1st, which sounds like kind of a long ways away, but that's actually not so far away when you're talking about demolishing a building. So then, assuming that council does approve the resolution and order tonight, then that order is served on the property owner, just like a complaint would be in a standard civil litigation suit. They have 20 days to serve an answer to that, specifying any facts that they might find in dispute. If they do serve an answer, then we go sort of that traditional litigation route where we go to court and we fight about whether or not the building is actually hazardous. Generally speaking, we don't get responses and answers to our orders. So then what happens is we go to step 4, where if they do not file an answer, but they also do not complete the work by the deadline, in this case demolishing these buildings, then we would take that resolution and order that you approve tonight, we bring it to the court and we ask them for a default judgment. The default judgment is typically granted. Occasionally, a court will provide additional time to the owner, even if they don't show up. But sometimes they just go ahead and sign the order and allow the city to do the work immediately. That order is, or that default judgment, is the document that allows us to call the contractors, go onto the property, demolish all of the stuff, haul away all of the stuff, and then importantly, assess all of the costs related to this entire 463 action against the property taxes. Oh, so that was step 5. So step 5 is the city performs the work in the order, which, as I mentioned, in this situation is going to be demolishing the buildings. So just a point of clarification, the opportunity to the property owner is they can fix the hazards or they can demolish the building. If they do neither, and so it becomes the city's responsibility, we do not fix buildings, we only demolish buildings for the obvious reason that we cannot warranty our work, right? That's getting into areas that the city doesn't belong in. So just a note on that. And then, so all of the costs are being tracked. Like right now, my work on this presentation, all of the legal fees, anything associated with this are being billed to a specific number. Once we get to the part of the process where we've demolished the building and we have all of these fees, those will be assessed to their property taxes at the end of the year. So in November, December, when you certify unpaid, utility bills and that kind of thing to the county, these costs will be on there as well, and they will be certified to the property. Any questions about the process in general? Okay, so we'll move on to the first property, 820 17th Street Southeast. This is a single-family residential property. The owner is Michael McCoy. And so on February 25th, the building official did conduct an exterior inspection of the home. He did not go into the home. Some photos upcoming will show you why he did not need to go into the home to determine that it was a hazardous building. On March 5th, he issued his report, which is attached in your file as Exhibit B to the resolution, and a notice of the inspection report and a notice of, and a copy of the inspection report and a notice of this meeting were sent to the property owner via certified mail. So just to help you understand why he deemed this building a hazardous building, this is a situation where pictures are worth all of the words. So that you can see is obviously not a structurally sound roof. This is a door into the house where you can see that the floors are eroding. This is another picture of the home. Again, you can see the structure is starting to cave in. So as I mentioned, a notice was sent to the property owner letting him know that the building has been deemed a hazardous building. He needs to do all of the things to bring it to structural integrity and structural soundness or remove the building on or before July 1st of 2025. We did receive an email from the property owner today, this afternoon, acknowledging that he had in fact received the notice and that he recognizes that the cabin has been deteriorating significantly for the last 5 years. He is going to be working with a contractor to try to get it demolished. He said he didn't think there would be an opportunity to repair it. So he recognizes that the cabin has been dilapidated for a while. He apologized for that. There was some sentimental value, and that was part of the reason why he kind of allowed it to maybe deteriorate longer than he should have. So in this situation, we don't have any objection from the property owner. He's responded. That's somewhat unusual, frankly, to have an email like this from the property owner, but it's great because hopefully he will go ahead and demolish the building. However, if he does not, then we will go ahead and, assuming council approves, we can move forward with the 463 action. So the first step in this process is to confirm that the property owner is not present at the meeting.
No.
So then I would move to the first motion that I'm looking for council is a motion to receive the council packet materials and enter those into the record. This is sort of a procedural step, but it's important in the event that we were to ever actually have true litigation on one of these files. So I'm looking for that motion on your screen, if somebody could do that.
Anyone?
I'll make
That
a-
motion.
I'll make a motion to receive the council pack materials related to 820 17th Street, including all exhibits, into the record.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, now I am, want to move to the resolution in order. So this is the document that agrees with the building official's report, officially declares the building a hazardous building because that is council authority, and then ordering the property owner to repair or remove by July 1st. One question that I would have for you all is to confirm that you're comfortable with that July 1st date. We do need to have a reasonable time, and so in the notice to the property owner, we told him we were proposing July 1st, but ultimately that date is a council, discretion item. So assuming that you're okay, is that like 60 days? I think I'm doing my math right, a little over 60, right? Like 70-ish days. I think much less than that to actually demolish a whole building might be a little tight, but defer to council on the timeframe.
Point of clarification, in those pictures, there was a lot of stuff around the building. So does this action require that not only the building gets tore down, but the whole mess gets cleaned up?
Yes, everything has to be removed from the site.
I mean, I think I'm fine with the 60 days. I trust that if he's making good faith effort, if it's not totally done by then, we're not going to haul him into court or try to take it over. So I like the July 1 timeframe, personally.
So then I would be looking for a motion to approve, and I believe the words are hopefully on your screen. That's the motion I want you to pass, please.
Do you need that date indicated in there or not?
It's already indicated in there, so I just wanted to make sure that you didn't need to amend.
Okay, all right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution in order to correct or remove the hazardous building at 820 17th Street Southeast in Forest Lake.
There's a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving to the second property, 21164 Everton Avenue. This is also a single-family residential property. The owners are Nels Sanford Nelson and Emma K. Hamer. Again, on February 25th, the interim building official conducted an exterior inspection only of the property. And like the first property, it was evident by the exterior of the building that it was in bad condition, and he did not need to go in to confirm that it was hazardous. March 5th, he issued his building report, and on April 12th, the property owners were mailed via certified mail notice of this meeting, as well as a copy of the building official report. Again, these are photos that depict the current as of February 25th status of the property. So you can see that the foundation is starting to lean a little bit. And this is where there is a very large wasp or hornet nest. You can't really tell from this photo so well, but like it's clear that there are things living inside the building as well, animals. Just general lack of repair. This is some boarding up on the side. And so that's you can see that the roof is caving in. There is obviously a giant hole. The property is in no way secure. And then another side to the property. So as I mentioned, the property owner received notice that they have to repair all of these hazardous conditions or remove the building. Again, on or before July 1st of 2025. We have not heard back from the property owner, but we do have a copy that they received the certified mail because we got the signature back. So at this point, just confirming that the property owner is not present. So then I would be looking for that motion again to accept all of these documents into the record.
I'll make a motion to receive the council packet materials related to 21164 Everton Avenue, including all exhibits, into the record.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then like the previous one, as I mentioned, this is a July 1st timeline to demolish that. We have not heard from the property owner, so I do not know if they will be demolishing this, removing the building. If they do not, we would be prepared to, on July 2nd, go out there, do an inspection, confirm that the building is still there, and then immediately file the paperwork with the court to get the default judgment to go in and demolish the building. Time frame on that, we probably have a solid 30 days, assuming that the property owner doesn't show up, of getting an order from the court. 30, 45 days, depending upon the judge that we get assigned to. So realistically, from a timeline perspective, it's unlikely that if we have to do the demolition of the building, that we will be able to get in and demolish the building until sometime in August at the earliest. So I just want to make sure that everybody has a fair expectation around the time. And that's assuming that we don't hear from the property owner one way or the other, right? That timeline would adjust if we heard from them from either perspective. So assuming that you are still okay with the July 1st deadline for this property, I would be looking for the same motion as last time.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution in order to correct or remove the hazardous building at 21164 Everton Avenue in Forest Lake.
I'll second.
Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, 8F, ATV, UTV, and golf cart operations. Captain Hanegraaff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As noted in the staff report, this is the third rendition of the ordinances, but we want to make sure we got it right, and we want to make sure there wasn't redundancies that we needed. So in the report and the ordinances for motion to approve tonight, the only difference is in the ATV, UTV, and that would be in subsection E, permit required. The issue with the Minnesota State Statute 169045 as far as ATVs, UTVs needing to be registered by permit. The Minnesota DNR already registers them for 3 years, which is similar to what we will use for the golf carts. The registration that the DNR requires for the ATVs and UTVs allows us to make sure that that person who owns it, the same information that would be for a golf cart. So to reduce the redundancy in the regulation, if someone has a permit through the DNR for ATV, UTV, that would suffice in lieu of a permit issued by the city, which would be required for the golf carts.
Go ahead.
Also, the motion to approve the resolution of the ATV, UTV map is on the packet. That outlines about as best as we can where they will be allowed in the city and where they will not be allowed. That will be posted to the website, so it'll be interactive, and as the city grows and certain streets are created, we can update those maps as need be.
Quick point on that, looking at that map, I noticed that there were some private roads that were excluded from the city map, which makes sense. What do we do in those neighborhoods where they might, as neighbors, allow, are we not policing that area too aggressively for that sort of stuff, or how do we handle that?
The private roads, I think, is those issues that we deal with as they come. If people live on the road and they have a registered UTV, ATV, or golf cart, I think we kind of let them operate on their own. If there's other people that are going in there that are not from that neighborhood who do not have the right to be on that roadway with that, then we would deal with that as those things come in.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start with the ordinance and a resolution on this item and then move to golf carts, correct?
Yes. So it'd be the motion to approve ordinance 751, ATV, UTV operations on public streets.
Just a couple comments here real quick. You know, this has been a long process, and I appreciate the time that staff's put into this, going all the way back to retired Captain Weiss, yourself, Captain Hangraff, and Chief Peterson. So we appreciate all the work on this. But, you know, this is, you know, some people are going to be a little bit maybe not happy about this. So if the complaints are numerous, this thing can go away just as fast as it's being approved tonight. So I just hope the public's aware of that, that we will make sure that they are being monitored and safely operated as much as possible. So with that, does anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance 751, an ordinance repealing and replacing Title 7, Section 7106 of the Forest Lake City Code relating to the operation of all-terrain and utility task vehicles on public streets, and amending Section 3501 to include associated permit fees.
Motions, or a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, a motion on the resolution. Anyone willing to do that?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve Resolution 0428-2501, authorizing summary publication of ordinance 751.
We have motions, or a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to write, any additional information on the golf cart part?
No, the golf cart is exactly the same as was presented last time.
Okay, all right. And so just for clarity there, the permit process and how long from the public, I mean, we'll be able to use golf carts. We know about the UTVs and the ATVs, but how about the inspection process and that on the golf cart?
So we've ordered stickers through Forest Lake Printing that basically look like a kind of the same concept as a state park sticker for your vehicle. As soon as the applications come in, we will have the inspections done. And I would assume as soon as we're getting them in, we should be able to kick them out pretty even, if not the day of, the next day.
And that process would be after they send the application in, they get contacted, and then they set up a time to bring the actual vehicle to City Hall here?
Yes.
Okay. Any additional questions on that part? With that, does anyone want to make a motion on the golf cart?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 752, the ordinance enacting Title 7, Chapter 71, Section 71.07 of the Forest Lake City Code of Ordinances relating to the operation of golf carts on public streets, amending the Section 35.01 to include associated permit fees.
Motions, or a second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, any further discussion?
One quick point, I think it would be a good idea to try to work with Paul and maybe make a commercial about this, because it's going to be a big change, and I know you do a fantastic job.
Great, so no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Interested in making a motion on the resolution?
I'll move to approve Resolution 0428-2502, authorizing summary publication of ordinance 752.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve Resolution 0428-2503, approving the ATV UTV street use map.
Motions, are a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. Thanks for all the work on this. Appreciate it. I think it's gonna be a great opportunity for the residents to explore the city and you go to different restaurants and shops and utilize the lake in the wintertime. So thank you for this. Great. 8G, noise ordinance. Abby.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts. In January of 2024, we adopted our new nuisance ordinance, and when we did that, we repealed current sections, or what was existing sections of the city code. Inadvertently, we repealed our noise ordinance. Well, there's some overlap with our new nuisance. Our noise ordinance has some very specific regulations that are kind of unique to Forest Lake, times of the day that you can do certain types of things. So what we've done is requested with our legal to make some minor modifications to that, but tonight for your consideration is a reinstatement of our noise ordinance. Essentially, we just want to kind of reinstate those ordinances so then that way we can help keep our noise levels under control in the community. So tonight I'd recommend you review the enclosed ordinance and then move to approve ordinance 754, repealing or replacing City of Forest Lake Title 9, Chapter 96, Section 9605, and renumbering current sections 9605 through 9609 and Section 36.02. As well as then move to approve resolution number 04282505, a resolution authorizing the summary publication of ordinance number 754. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Any questions or discussion, further discussion on this? That is, you wouldn't want to make a motion on.
We don't need separate motions. I think you could do them both with one if you'd like.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'll make an ordinance, or I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 754, an ordinance repealing and replacing Forest Lake City Code Title 9, Chapter 96, Sections 9605, and renumbering current sections 9605 through 9609 in Section 3602, and also resolution number 04282505, a resolution authorizing the summary publication of ordinance number 754.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, moving right along here, 8H, Public Right-of-Way Ordinance. Abby.
Thank you. Again, in January of '04, when we repealed our nuisance ordinance, we inadvertently repealed some very Forest Lake-specific regulations that indicate when you can obstruct the public right-of-way for a parade. Otherwise, obstructions are not allowed, but we're a parade community, and there are times that we will allow people to put out their chairs. Right now, we don't have those regulations in place. We'd like to reinstate those regulations. So again, with some minor modifications by legal, we have tonight for your consideration ordinance 755, and then the corresponding resolution. Staff would recommend you move to approve those as written in the staff report.
Questions or comments on that?
This is just reinstating what was.
This is again reinstating what was. I think the word tarpaulin was modified, that we can still put in down a chair, a blanket, or other improvement or personal property. But yes, it is almost identical to what the ordinance was in January of '24.
Well, knowing that, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 755, an ordinance amending Forest Lake City Code Title 9, Chapter 98, Section 9805, general regulations of the public right-of-ways and lands, and resolution number 04282506, a resolution authorizing the summary publication of ordinance number 755.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8I, Manor Park Project, and Dave.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, earmarked for the 2025 CIP in the Park Dedication Fund is Manor Park. This park was built, or the playground was constructed in 2001, so it's getting up to its 25-year lifespan. We talked about this last fall and showed you some pictures of how that's kind of falling apart. It's a steel structure that's kind of rubber coated, and a lot of the rubber's falling off, and and some pieces are falling apart. So, like I said, it was earmarked for $125,000. The goal was to add in deficiencies that were identified in the Parks Master Plan, which included it didn't have swing sets, it didn't have a trail to get to the park, and it also didn't have shade. So taking those deficiencies and then factoring in what Public Works can do versus contracting out, we started at 125,000, worked our way back of getting that playground to get all those deficiencies covered. We came up with a round number of $75,000. So we put out a request for proposal to 6 different playground manufacturers, local distributors from, you name it, every playground that we already have in town. We gave them, we need a 2-year to 5-year playground set in there, a 5 to 12, and a swing set. And that were the parameters. We gave them 2,500 square feet. That's the existing container at Manor. And they were told to give 2 options. A bunch of them replied. We ended up getting 9 responses or 9 options back. Between myself and Kyle and Kevin Warner, we narrowed that down to 7 and presented that to the Parks Commission a couple weeks ago. We went through a lot of work, and then I presented it, and one of the members said, I like this one, and they all agreed, and then it was done with, just like that. So they were all really great, really all great playgrounds. This one just stuck out to all the commission members at the Fish that was in that main centerpiece. We weren't aiming for a theme park, but if you look at the estimate, they basically gave $80-some thousand off in credit. They want to use this as a display piece to take pictures, to use it for promotional purposes. So they're local. They wanted to put it in a Forest Lake Park, and they gave us a pretty big discount. So they had a somewhat unfair advantage that they gave such a deep discount when, you know, the parameters were $75,000. But unanimously, the Parks Commission approved spending the not to exceed $125,000 for the project, and selecting that option 2 that you see attached. So if you have any questions, I'll take them right now. Otherwise, we're looking for recommendations for 2 things, or approvals for 2 things. Approval to spend that $125,000 so Public Works can start getting the border and starting to do all that kind of work and getting quotes for the path and the benches and the trees. And the other one was to place an order with Recreation so they can start building this playground to be installed in September.
Just a couple questions for clarification for the public. Whereabouts is this park?
So Manor Park is on 213th Street right off of Harrell. It's a little neighborhood park. There's nothing else around there. So there's a neighborhood there, and it's right across the street from Chestnut Creek, and probably Chestnut Creek 2, and a future road that'll go through there as well. So it's going to be a very popular park. It's kind of, you know, we joke that it's going to be called Fish Park, just like Dragon, you know, we have a Dragon Park, and this will be Fish Park. So we've already anticipated that, and are going to build a kind of a gravel parking lot to start off with, just to have some off-street parking, because I think it's going to be widely used as soon as it gets opened up. But I think it'll be used as a neighborhood. We'll get a trail connection down Harrell. I mean, it's going to be walkable from a lot of different areas. It seems like it's kind of out in the country right now, but it'll be in a very populated area quite soon.
And if it was in the packet, I apologize, but the funding on this, was this the levy dollars or park dedication, or where is this money coming from?
This is coming out of park dedication
Park
dollars.
dedication.
No, he answered my question just about parking, because I mean, I know there's really not any off-street parking there now, and there's a vision to have trail connectivity as well.
I know that there'll be trails going down Harrell, the proposed Harrell that'll get reconstructed. Once all that development happens, we'll have a trail most likely going from 97 all the way down to 202nd. Whether or not there's a stub coming off of there, you're talking one house, so it's about 50 feet off of there. We're going to start off with gravel. We don't have that funding to pave it in. I think we'll see how that goes, but I can envision that at some point you'll have to. But I mean, I think that'll hold 10 cars, off the street. So I think we'll start with that. We'll fill in that ditch and put a culvert in there and fill that in. So kind of anticipating that we're going to have some issues there.
Good problem to have, I guess.
Yep.
Like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Manor Park project not to exceed the 2025 funded amount of $125,000.
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Second
Oh,
motion.
sorry, yeah, I didn't. So then we're looking for a motion on the quote from Play Creations, correct?
I'll make a motion to approve purchasing playground equipment from Play Creations for the purchase price of $75,000.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, 8J, bid award North Shore Trail and 2025 street pavement maintenance project. And Ryan.
Mayor, City Council, in your packet, you have the bid results and award recommendation for the North Shore Trail and 2025 street pavement maintenance project. 5 bids were received at the April 17th publicly opened bid opening. Obviously, much lower than the estimates of the project. We were able to work with Elders to reduce the bond for North Shore slightly over 1.1 million. And then the local portion of the project also came under bid, and the amount budgeted for that still has quite a bit of funding left in that, the local street project, so we would work with Public Works and the contractor to come back to a future meeting to add some potential street lineal feet to that project, obtaining, exact pricing from the contractor, and bring that back for consideration in other areas in this project area. But tonight, our main action that we want to bring forth to you is just award the base total bid, which is Bituminous Roadways Incorporated, in the amount of $4,196,966.95. And that would include the streets that you see within your packets on the mapping. So with that, I would open that with any questions you might have and go from there.
Or if I might just add a couple of things. First of all, I think just, great news here on all fronts, to be able to save some funds here. What Dave and Ryan and I are gonna be talking about over the next few days is just our overall financial picture, not just with the street fund, but as a city. And we'll be reviewing our more global needs, and we'll bring back some things for you to consider. It's a tough scenario, right? You save some money, you'd like to put that in the bank and save it for a rainy day that we know is coming. Rain is predicted in the future. And at the same time, sometimes when you look back and you go, when prices were good, we should have done this, that, and the other thing, because now, doggone it, they're back up to where they were. So sometimes this is a time to double down on spending, as much as it pains us to do that sometimes. When prices are good, maybe it is time to do that. But for right now, the action is to order this, make sure that we lock this bid in. And that does need to be a separate consideration, and we do need motion to be only on the merits of this project and not really consider future projects as part of that motion. So that is why we didn't bring forward anything additional with this. We wanted to make sure that we hear this bid only based on the merits of this bid, and then we can consider lots of other stuff down the line, so.
So anything additional with that? That's just on the savings on the local, but as far as keeping that bond at that higher price to do more, is that, are we still contemplating that or not? Not really.
We could, I would, still have the opportunity to do that if that was the council's direction. I think, given the outlook on debt service across the board, I think that would be a difficult bond for more than we absolutely needed to think the remaining project, that we sort of cut the scope of, I think that's enough of a project where we will still get, if we decided to go with that a year or two from now, we could still, a good enough price to have a good bond sale on that. Whether we should do it right now and still bond for that full amount, I think, it'd be my advice that we be a bit more conservative, just given some of the outlook of some of the things we have.
Thoughts? That, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the city award the contract to Tuminous Roadways, Inc. to perform the work scheduled in the base bid in the amount of $4,196,966.95.
Motion and a second.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, council members, my question would be, before we do this, what protections does the city have from these bids going up considerably with change orders or work orders? When we lock in a price for $4 million, what's to keep this contractor from coming back and saying, oh, this $100,000 or this $200,000 wasn't included in the bid?
That's what we pay the man at the end of the day over there to do, is to write a specification that is tight enough for them not to be able to do that. Our plans and specifications are very clear in laying out the scope of work, and, it's why we don't just go get a couple of quotes and have them write up a sketch on the back of a napkin. This is why we do plans and specifications, and Ryan's specifications, they're this thick. They have general conditions that contractors sign on to that are very, very specific and very tight. It doesn't mean a change order doesn't come along. The things that change orders would be for is changes in scope. So we decide we're gonna add another street or widen the road by 2 feet or those type of things that are material. There are some things in the contract, force majeure that sort of out of control of either the contractor or the city, the world that happen, that could affect that price. Anytime though we have a change order in front of us, it'll be our choice to move in that direction or not. At any point, we could say, we just can't absorb that cost, let's cut her down, let's shrink the scope. So you always have an opportunity to stay within that budget. I think that, change orders tend to get a bad name sometimes, in the public realm. People think of them as, sneaky things the contractor does to up the price. And I assure you that Ryan's firm is gonna be up for us in that regard, and that there will be none of that. And change orders that come before you would be for scope of work. Sometimes it's, you get to a point and all the soil borings say that it's good over here, all of a sudden, by happenstance, you missed a spot with the soil borings and it's complete mush. That's not the contractor's fault, that's not our fault. Change order. So there is that possibility that that dollar amount does go up. Ryan's firm also does a nice job, I think, of building into our budgeting process some contingencies for that. Certainly that's not something we look to spend, but is there to make sure that we've got a cushion in the budget. The bond, I think, does include some contingencies as well, so that we have enough bonded for as well. So not just in our general budget, but in the bond as well, so.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second, I believe, right? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, it looks like we don't have anything under discussion here, so we'll go with staff updates. And Abby, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, we don't have a full-time planner, but our interim services start tomorrow, Madison Richards. So if you guys are ever around City Hall, feel free to stop in and introduce yourself. She will be supported by Nathan First. So we might see a few new faces every now and then, definitely maybe some new face names on staff reports. But I would imagine Madison will be here well through the summer to help make sure that we can get a stable services and once we get all staffed up. Just want to thank you again tonight for authorizing the release of that planning manager position. We're going to get that posted right away. And then lastly, I really excited to announce that Forest Lake Ford has agreed to be a co-sponsor of Arts in the Park. They are making a sizable contribution to the program that will cover almost all of the musical act costs, but a 50-50 partnership between the city and Forest Lake Ford. So we'll bring that donation back before you and start some press release on that. But it is, to the best of my knowledge, the first time that we've actually found an outside sponsor to commit to really helping provide that programming to the community, so.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Mayor and City Council members, no updates this evening.
Newman?
Mayor and City Council, just one update. Even though we've had rain over the last week, we are still under burn restrictions for Washington County and Anoka County. I would expect in the next couple weeks they'll lift those restrictions, but at this time, we are not issuing burn permits.
Anything else tonight, Captain Hanegraaff?
No, sir.
Dave?
No updates.
Amanda?
Yes, Your Honor, Counsel. In the spirit of the 463 actions that have been going on tonight, just an update on the 463 action that you approved last November. If you recall, that was for 23620 Jensen Avenue property. And that one, he had until April 30th, which is Wednesday, to either repair or demolish the building. That one's a little bit unique. The garage had burned off the house. There was definitely damage to the property, although there was the opinion by the building official that if somebody were to get in there and do some work, you potentially could actually repair that building versus just demolishing that building. And let's separate out the 463 action from ongoing code enforcement, because there is also additional ongoing code enforcement with exterior storage, junk, garbage, et cetera. That is ongoing as well, but that's separate from this 463 action. In that situation, the property went into foreclosure while we were doing the 463 action. Unfortunately, the lender postponed their sheriff's sale twice, so they just had it in March, end of March. The problem with that is it puts him in the 6-month redemption period. The mortgage company, I have been in contact with them this entire time. They want the opportunity to try to fix the property. But that makes it very difficult because they won't be able to get in to fix the property hypothetically until after the 6-month redemption period. Plus, assuming that the individual would still be living at that property after the 6 months, which is possible because living there for, free for the 6 month of the redemption period, then they have to go through an eviction process to actually evict the individual. So that could very likely be another 2 to 3 months, depending upon the court process, potentially more, potentially longer. So that's a 9-month window, which in reality would kick us into sometime late fall to be able to get in there and do something, or excuse me, to allow the lender to get in there to be able to do something. The lender has indicated that they will likely file an answer were I to move forward with filing this complaint in court. Although we've talked at the staff level and we do feel like we need to take that next step of at least filing the complaint, forcing the mortgage company to come to the table, and potentially they aren't utilizing all of the tools at their disposal. For example, one of the things that lenders can do is pay somebody money to leave the property. And so in this situation, that might be a very good use of resources. I have had a conversation about that exact thing with the lender's real estate agent, and she agrees and was going to be pushing on it from her position of influence as well. So all of that to say, we know that the neighbors have been incredibly patient with this particular property. April 30th is the property owner's timeline to have done something. Not based on all evidence to date, nothing has been done. On May 1st, there will be, May 1st or 2nd, there will be an inspection of the property to confirm that it's still in the same or similar condition. And then next week, I will move forward with filing the complaint, unless I hear something different from the council tonight, but I'm seeing some head nods. And then move forward with a little bit more intentional conversation with the lender around the 9-month process really is too long, you didn't need to extend the sheriff's sale multiple times. You've kind of made the situation that you're in, so let's come to a conclusion that can be in the best interest of the city and the neighbors and frankly, the lender at some point. So that's my update on that property. Do you have any questions or comments, or you don't want me to plan on filing this complaint in court in about a week and a half? Do it, okay.
And thank you for trying to move them forward on that. This neighborhood has waited way too long for something to happen here, so however we can help expedite that would be great.
Okay, yeah, and that was, I've been working with Mark and Abby on that and will continue to do so. And I do know that Abby is also working on the junk stuff abatement. That's just sort of ongoing and is going to be ongoing because I think as we're removing things, things are getting added.
Abby, so any additional on that? Are we on site here this week, or what is
We'll be on site next week. We've just been scheduling it with the removal company. Part of the challenge just is they do have to store any personal property that is removed. And if you remember the photos of the property, there's a lot of personal property, so it's kind of coming in waves. The first priority is always to remove trash to reduce any sort of vermin, but that is going to be just kind of systematic. The trash removal company or the junk removal company has requested police presence, so we just needed to figure out a date that works for them, for our police department, and then also just to provide a new courtesy notice to the owner that we will be on property that site, next week. So we are working on it. These aren't fast-moving processes at all, though.
So any additional costs like that at having police, that's a tally that goes to assessed to the property eventually?
Yeah, Your Honor, Counsel, yes. So that should all be tracked, and anything that is related to a code enforcement matter in this particular situation in particular should be tracked and yes, can be assessed. And that is something that Abby and I have been talking about, and in terms of we have to kind of monitor when we've got one of these in a foreclosure process where we want the opportunity to get paid at the table of closing and not once there's a new property owner in, because sometimes they can get real angry when they, for whatever reason, don't know that there's a, say, $40,000, $50,000 bill from the city that needs to be paid. And on some of these 463 actions, it absolutely gets up to that amount when you're demoing a house or more. So yes, everything that, we're cautious about everything being allocated that can be billed back.
I think it's just important with this delay that the neighbors are experiencing, that they see something happening on the property would probably help their patience level on this. So, anything else? And Mark?
Just Mr. Mayor and Council, what was laid in front of you here was our Friday update on Monday. Apologize for that. Everyone got their stuff to me on time. It's my fault. Didn't get out. So this is a little bit more robust update from the Public Works and Police and so on, and Community Development. I'll let you read through it at your leisure. But just a couple of things to note. In the Finance Director position, we had a first deadline for a first review. We do have 4 applicants. I had a chance to look through those resumes today. Some interesting candidates, and we'll take a deeper dive on their background and see if 1 or 2 of them are a fit for an interview. And we'll keep you updated on that process and kind of go through that process together here. The classification and compensation study, we did get a number of proposals back, and staff is evaluating those, trying to weed through some of those and get to a group of those that we can, again, check references on and do some backgrounding on, make sure that we have some qualified proposals. I will note that, I think we had 12 or 13 of those. Many of them were from out of state with no relevant experience in municipal world in Minnesota. But we do also have a number of respondents that did have that expertise. So I do think we'll have a couple of proposals to go from, and at a reasonable price. I think we'll be under that $30,000 range. So I think that's about what we budgeted, and I think we're about to get that done. So the other good news is that they all said that they could do it on time, and that was a concern that we weren't able to get this done in time to, start looking at contracts and that kind of stuff and impacting how that works, so. Speaking of contracts, we were able to reach a tentative agreement with MAPE, our union of some of our management folks, and that was last week, Monday, and so I want to thank them for a nice negotiation. I think we came to the table with some good ideas and reached a nice agreement that we'll be bringing to you at the next council meeting, so. I also attended the Metro INET quarterly board meeting. That was my first go of that as a Forest Lake person. I just put on my different hat. I used to attend those as a Centerville representative from time to time as well. Just highlights from their meeting was that they did a class comp study a couple years ago and have kind of been updating that on an annual basis, which I think is an interesting tactic that we may want to look at. Kind of a refresher for a couple $1,000 each year. You kind of get the person that, the firm that did your study can just kind of re-up that information pretty easily. And so they've been kind of doing that for 2 years now. And the news came back that, everything is good. They're still within market. And so they're giving their staff a 3% cost of living adjustment. And again, found that they're within market conditions. They did end of the year $250,000 under budget and have a preliminary look at their expenses going forward as a 6% increase, but that does not necessarily mean there'll be a 6% increase in our dues or our membership fees. That's just on the expense side. We think our revenues are going up as well, so we're hopeful that we can find a way to keep that increase at a modest level. So that's from that meeting, and then just a couple of communications things. This, you'll note, is getting a little bit longer each time. I think the next time this is in front of you, it will be significantly longer and a little bit more of, I gave Dave a little hint about pictures, and he provided some nice little photos, so hopefully we'll make this a little bit more readable, so you don't have a Bible in front of you every time that you have to sift through. And just I want it to be a bit more visually pleasing and public facing, I'll call it. And at some point, this will become a bit more of a public update as well as an update to the council. And that's my goal, is to make it an update that everybody can read, whether it's staff, whether it's council, whether it's the public, and make sure that we're public facing and as transparent to people and communicative to our residents as possible. And hopefully without too much additional work from staff, right? We're just gonna be pivoting what we already kind of do into a little bit more of a readable version, hopefully. Then one little initiative, and I know it's a small thing, but I just want to let you know that we are taking some steps to, again, make communications better. We did an audit of the website. Each department kind of went through the website, their own portion of the website, just looking for little stuff. I was picking on the police department that it still said we had a K-9 unit, and I think we haven't had one for, what, a decade or better, Rick? So the website was a bit outdated, right? And that was one of those points to me that, oh, gosh, we haven't looked at this in a while, right? And it's easy to do, because if people don't call and complain about it, it's out there, and why would you look at to update it? But we're gonna try to do a little bit more of that intentional stuff to make sure that that information is fresh. An outdated website, you might as well not have a website, right? If that information isn't fresh and new, accurate, then it's a waste of our money to have a website, and folks really count on websites to have that information at the time. So, again, it's a small thing, but I just wanted to help you guys understand that we're doing some of that stuff to make all of our communications a little bit better incrementally here. And some of these things are gonna take baby steps until we can get fully staffed up, but we're making progress. I want you to know that we're making some forward progress. So that's all I had for tonight.
Anything else for us this evening?
Nothing in addition.
Councilmember Larson.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Councilmember Erickson.
No updates tonight.
Councilmember Miller.
Nothing from me.
Councilmember Wynn.
I watched the second Parks and Recreation Commission meeting online, which was great, and then I attended the Cable Commission meeting, which since last year, we have 3 new members out of a 4-member commission. And so our last meeting was the first meeting with a new city council member from City of Columbus, and then a Forest Lake community member. So that was pretty exciting. It went well, and so our next meeting is gonna be the end of June.
Great. I don't have a whole lot. We're still looking for planning commission members, correct? I think we're 2 short.
Yes, correct.
So if anyone on the public is interested, We really need that. It's an important commission. Other than that, I'd like to thank Nick Vanelli and Ken Roberts for their service to the city. They're moving on to new opportunities, so thank you for their service. And thank you to everyone tonight for a great meeting. It's nice to get some things done and appreciate everyone's time. So with that, with no business coming forward, I will adjourn the meeting.
Oh, sir.